All right. So friends, multiplication, we've talked a lot about it. We've talked all about what it is and what it isn't. We've taken each factor by itself from 0 through 9. We've talked about skip counting. We've talked about breaking apart. We've built arrays. We've done so many different things, modeled it in so many different ways, talked about strategies, and now we are starting, as you can see on Google Forms, for example, we are starting fluency practice. Again, fact fluency in multiplication, that's like sight words in reading, friends. Kind of the equivalent, if you will, in math. So this week, in lesson 9, we are going to be using place value to multiply, and we're going to model that. What does that really mean? Well, in this lesson, it's going to be looking at ways to solve multiplication problems using multiples of 10. What does that mean? So instead of multiplying something like 4 times 2, you're going to be able to see models of multiplying 4 times 20. Some would call that 2 by 1-digit multiplication. You are going to see with place value how you can multiply with multiples of 10, modeling with base 10. So if you take a look at page 211, we're going to go ahead and work this problem out together. I'm going to project it so that you can see it, so that I can annotate and write some notes for you. So give me just 1 second to share my screen. All right, friends, starting up here at the top, where it says, in previous lessons, you learned multiplication facts. In this lesson, you will learn how to use these facts to help you multiply 1-digit numbers and multiples of 10. We're going to use what you know to solve these problems. Let's take a look at the bold-faced text. Here's the question. There are 4 stacks of books on a table. Each stack has 20 books. How many books are there in all? Now, friends, going back to close read strategies. Here is, of course, my seasonal orange Flair pen, where I'm going to do some close read here. So 4 stacks, that's my number of groups. Each stack, 20 books. How many are there in all? I need to know total number of books. Now, friends, remember our learning target here. Remember our learning target. When I see that 20 books, that is a multiple of 10. That helps me remember what my learning target actually is. Now, we can model this in a couple of ways. Now, we could make an array, right? And we could do 4 groups with 20 in each. That's a lot of drawing. Or we could do it in a simplified fashion. So we could do 4 groups, or in this particular problem, we're calling them stacks, right? So here's a group, and here's a group, and here's a group, and here's a group, or stack, right? So instead of drawing all of it, I can simply say, I know that there are 20 here, and 20 here, and 20 here, and 20 here. That is a way for me to model it. And of course, I could put, as I've done in equal groupings before, friends, my addition symbol here, and my equal sign. And of course, when I add all of this together, it is going to be 80 total books. Now, the important piece here is to see our multiples of 10. We can break apart these equal groups to represent those multiples of 10. So let's take it back to our base 10 blocks, for example, and let's see if we're able to do that. So when I look at this 20, I know that that is 10 and 10. And when I look at this 20, that's 10 and 10. And so on until I get to the end. How do I know that? Because 20 is a multiple of 10. That's how I know that. So when I go from 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20, when I break apart using place value, multiples of 10, for example, then I end up with 10 and 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 10. And so, of course, now with these multiples of 10, this is simple skip counting or forward counting. Let's try it. So I start 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And oh, look, it matches. Multiples of 10, friends. Multiples of 10. Another quick way of looking at this, we have 4 stacks. Each stack has 20 books. Mental math says we can do this. We can say 4 multiplied by 2, and we can say that that product is 8, and then we add the 0 back in. That's what we call mental math, friends. All right? On page 212, you're going to see on number 2, where it says that multiplication can be used to find the total when there are 2 or more groups with the same number in each group. We know that. You've learned some multiplication facts, and those facts will help you multiply with tens. So friends, on page 212, you are seeing that it is what we modeled on page 211 when we used the multiples of 10. You can see here multiples of 10. Take a look at the skip counting. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. You could also skip count by 20 if you wanted to. As you can see, 20, 40, 60, and of course, 80. Or again, the mental math strategy of 2 times 4, adding the 0 back in. Okay? Up until now, the strategy has been the same, identifying the number of equal groups and how many are in each group. Today is no different, except The numbers now are getting a little bigger. Now we're working with multiples of 10, 20, or 30, or 40, or 50. When you get to those multiples, those larger numbers, again, no longer 4 times 2. Now we're looking at 4 times 20. You can break them apart with those 10 rods. Step by step, you can model and break it apart. And then it's just easy. Skip counting by tens. I think we can all agree that skip counting by 10 is probably easier than skip counting by 30 or skip counting by 40 if we break apart those multiples with those 10 rods, and then we just do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, however far we need to go. That's easier for our brains. Is it more to model? Does it take a little bit longer? Sure. The bigger the numbers, the bigger the models, friends. The bigger the numbers, the bigger the models. And this is where we go into our mental math. When we're looking at base 10 or multiples of 10, we can drop out those zeros and then add them back in when we're all done. That's another way of doing it. All right? It's another way of doing it. And we're going to get a lot more into mental math next semester, for sure. All right? So, let's see. Now, friends, in breakout rooms, yes, I am going to be breaking you out today. In breakout rooms, you're going to be working on page 213, 214, these 2 pages. I want you to have some discussion about them in your breakout rooms. And then we're going to come back together. And of course, I will be visiting you in your rooms to answer any questions that you have and to guide you along. Then we'll come back together and we'll talk about it. Does that make sense to everyone? Make sense? All right.